right. Hey, can you hear me, guys?
Yep.
All right. Welcome to the EricSwanRacing.com podcast. Today is episode number 33. I have Keagan Brown Racing, and I think his father's in the background helping out.
Yep.
Welcome. How you doing today?
Pretty good. How about you?
Excellent. I'm over here in Michigan. Where are you out of right now?
We're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina right now.
North Carolina. Is it what's the weather like over there? It's snowing here. It's raining and snowing and sleet.
It's cold, but we don't get much snow in North Carolina.
Very
If we do,
good.
it feels spotty.
Yeah, I bet that helps out with your training. So what kind of training are you doing right now, staying prepared for the season?
Right now we're doing a lot of flat track. We're actually in Motory right now, which is the dealership that's going to be partnering with us in 2021, and they're going to be building us a ZX6R for next year. So CCS and stuff like that we'll be training on, but mostly right now, just because it's so cold and there's not many tracks in North Carolina, just sticking to flat track.
Okay, very good. And I see you got a Ninja, a 1000 looks like behind you.
Yeah, it's one of the new 2021 10 RRs. Only 500 of them.
Only they got 500 of them out now.
Yeah, I think that's all the only one they're gonna make. This is a special edition.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I'm a Kawi lover myself. I grew up on some Kawasaki's. I had 3 of them, and then I switched over to Triumph. But yeah, I still love the inline four Japanese bikes. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so you've been just doing some flat track. What kind of places you've been going for flat track? Any specific places, or just trying to do parking lots?
Well, we have a fellow by the name of Lee Johnson owns a small little oval and TT course about an hour away from us, and he helps us out all the time. And that's where we ride. And a couple people go there, but mainly it's just a little private check.
Very good. Um, and you've been doing some mini racing. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we haven't been doing much mini stuff this year and the year, or we haven't been doing much mini stuff this year. Last year I did the Ovali Talent Cup with the 160s and 190s. And moving on, we'll probably do some stuff on like 150s and stuff like that. But yeah, we haven't been doing much mini stuff this year.
And how do you like the Ovalis, the 160s or 190s? You said.
I like them. They're great bikes. I'm a little tall, I think, for them. So it's really hard for me to kind of stay smooth and go real fast on them.
And you're how old now?
I'm 13.
You're 13, and you think you've outgrown them already.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've outgrown them, but just I think that I think they're made for little kids, and like we have a buddy named Nathan Gauker who'll probably end up on here when he wins a championship.
Yeah.
And he's about 4'11", 4'12" maybe, and he's perfect. It's like a full-size bike for him. He can rail those things.
Right.
I
Okay.
just feel like
There's some people my age who are talking about like this is the next best thing since sliced bread. So I was wondering what you thought about them for adults and all that.
Yeah, I think anyone can ride him. I just think whether or not if you want to like be super competitive with all these little kids.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
after
think
a certain point, I think your weight is a disadvantage. It's more of a training tool. I expect to be competitive if I got one because I'm 6 feet, 150 pounds, but I'm not going to be competing against the 13-year-old. I hope.
yeah,
Although it'd be interesting.
I think Ovali will make a big role in Moto America and other classes going on.
I hope so. You guys are the future. You guys coming up through the ranks, and the little kids, even younger than you, are the future of road racing. Unfortunately, I never grew up with a family who was into racing, so I never got that experience when I was younger. I was always playing soccer and hockey and things like that. I got into racing on my own when I was about 20 years old. So it's cool that your dad is helping you out.
Yeah, we we've been at it for about 8 years now. So and we're not planning on stopping anytime soon.
8 years is pretty good. You know, they say that most people are able to only stay in the game financially for 4 or 5 years, and that's kind of what happened to me. I couldn't afford to do it anymore. But it's great that you guys have kind of figured that part of it out.
Yeah, well, we're trying to. We've our mindset on financial has always been try to just a lot of hands make light work. So I mean, we've walked around our neighborhood and drove around our neighborhood and and handed out flyers to local businesses, and every little donation counts. So we we've just been doing that for almost 2 years now. And minis aren't as expensive as big bikes by a long shot. We found that out this year. But yeah, we uh we love our sponsors.
And if you could just give a quick sponsor shout out to some of the people who've been helping you out.
Yeah, so obviously Motory, they're going to be helping us out next year with a bike. BartCon will be on BartCon Racing next year for Moto America. Paul Biondi is a personal sponsor. He helps out with a lot of financial things. Bison Leathers, they give us they're gonna be hooking us up with leathers. HJC helmets for next year. Forma boots, hopefully. We're not exactly sure on that yet. Let me think. It's been a while since I've had to list all these.
Sure, you almost need like a note card with all of them, because at one point I had 20 sponsors, and it sounds like it's a dream come true, right? But even though you have all these helpful partners, it doesn't always pay all the bills. It's what you find out.
Yeah.
Even though you're a professional sponsored racer, right? It doesn't seem like it sometimes.
Yeah, I think those are the big ones. Charlie Soap and All About Floors are some more local sponsors that help us out with some little stuff. But yeah, we're still looking.
For sure, you're always going to be looking. And tell me about those Bison Leathers. How you're liking those?
I love Bison. We came into it a little bit shaky because it was a new company. It was still growing. But as soon as I rode them, I love them. They're comfortable, and I had a couple of hard crashes this year, and they served me well. I did
And
fine.
and have you had to make any major repairs to them, or are they just held up on?
Uh, I haven't had to get any big stuff. I know I had a crash in NC Bike in North Carolina, and I scuffed them up pretty well. And Robert Lackey, who owns Bison, just took him in his R&V and freshened him up with some paint and some new leather, and we moved on. It's really good people.
That's great to hear. They have even support at the racetrack for their riders at the major events too. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you said you've been doing some CCS/ASRA races for training in the meantime before the Moto America stuff. And tell me how that's been going, and what events you've been hitting.
That's been going pretty well. We didn't get to race 600s this year, so we just stuck to our 400. But we did pretty well. I think I finished top five in the championship because I missed a lot of the races because we only planned on doing a couple of the races, but we ended up doing, I think, all of the finishing rounds. But it went pretty well. We're gonna try to do as many as we can next year too.
Did COVID get in the way of a lot of things for you?
Yeah, COVID I think has been a kind of burden, somewhat of a burden. I think it's helped us a little bit and not helped us. Like, see, with CCS, we wanted to do them early and kind of just hit a couple here and there, but COVID pushed them back, and so they were all together. Like every weekend, we were going out and riding, and so I improved a lot with all that seat time.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when that seat time is condensed, it seems to help you out more. The more time away from the bike, it seems like you develop some. Not, I'm not talking about you and you particularly, but me. Everybody seems to develop cobwebs the longer they're on the bike. So I like it when it's more condensed. But then if you have a crash, you need more parts, or if you have an injury, there's always complications, so it makes things difficult sometimes.
Yeah, that was our biggest problem. We were riding constantly, so I always had crashes in my head, and obviously financial stuff because we're just out of North Carolina, so we're nothing special when it comes to racing. So yeah, so the seat time helped us out a lot, but also hurt us going into 2021 because we're out of money.
I know, like,
Yeah,
man, so I stopped racing motorcycles, big bikes in 2015, just because I ran out of money. And I started my own business, EricSwanRacing.com, and I sell products online. So I sell all kinds of race parts, stuff that I use. Some of my old sponsors are now my vendors. So my hope is that one day I can sell enough parts from EricSwanRacing.com that I can help fund my own racing program, because sponsorship is great, but it doesn't always pay all the bills. So I'm trying to fund something else on my own to help it out. So that's a work in progress, selling exhausts and hard parts like rear sets and gas caps and sprockets and chains, and don't have a lot of gear like suits yet or helmets, but we do have boots, do have some mountain bike helmets, some motocross helmets, motocross jerseys, getting into some car parts as well, some mountain bike parts. So a lot of motorsports gear is coming your way. So it's pretty cool to be able to also sell the things that I used.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you said, and before we were talking about doing this podcast, one of the things you wanted to talk about was the call when you got from Colin Bartkon.
Yeah,
So
that
tell me
was
about that.
an interesting day.
Yeah.
So we we knew nothing about. Well, we had talked to BartCon. We had talked to a lot of teams. In Wisconsin, we were racing with the Volleys, and we were just minding our business, sitting at home one day, and lo and behold, Colin Barton calls us. And my dad disappears for a little bit on the phone, and then comes back and he says, "Welcome to BartCon." It was an interesting day, and I'm stoked to be on BartCon. It's arguably the best team in the paddock right now.
Yeah, and they've had some big names, big name riders already. I couldn't even name them all, but I think Damien was on there for a while, and he's raced in Italy already.
Yeah, Damien Jiggleoff. Yeah,
Well, that's not nothing.
yeah, he's a really fast guy. I've gotten to talk to Cooper McDonald and Dominic Doyle a lot. And Jack Roach was riding with them for a little bit, but I think he's going off and doing his own thing now.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to be talking to Jack Roach, I think maybe next week or the week after on this podcast. And I just talked to um, Dustin Apgar, and he was Dominic Doyle's coach for the team, Barcon Racing.
Yeah, we're actually going to train with him at the end of January in Arizona. He wants to help us out with coaching and obviously he's a mechanic, so he wants to get set up and everything. But yeah, I can't wait for that. He's a really nice guy. And the interesting story, first time I met Dustin was 4 or 5 years ago, and he was working with Sean and Varsity.
Okay, yeah.
I was real little, and I guess we just took to a liking of each other, and we've kind of stayed in contact ever since. So I think we'll have a good bond for next year.
Very good. Yeah, he's a little crazy. He's a little out there with his helmet dragging, ghillie suit wearing, racetrack. And now he's into. If you listen to the podcast with him, it's he's all into paramotoring now. I don't even know
Yeah,
what it is when I talk to him, where it's like hang gliding with an engine and a fan on your back, and you can go like 60 miles an hour in a straight line.
yeah. One of our sponsors from Charlie Soap, I can't remember the name off the top of us of my head, but he flies paramotors, and we've talked to him, so it seems like a pretty interesting thing.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
know Dustin's going out like every other weekend to fly.
Yeah, he sounds like a fun guy to hang out with. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think we all have to be a little crazy to ride though.
Yeah, so tell me about some of the craziness with crashing. most people think from outside the motorsport industry, oh, you're gonna crash, oh, you're gonna have a massive, you know, gonna be in the hospital, all this stuff. It's not always like that. So what has crashing been like for you lately?
I've always been a pretty safe rider. I don't crash often, but apparently when I do, I make it count. We only had two crashes this year, and one of them was at NC Bike, and I just tucked the front, came into a little too hot, and I think one was Wisconsin, yeah, on the Ovales. Um, I haven't broken a bone yet. I haven't even sprained or done anything massive like that. I we wear the best gear out there. We're not everything's controlled. Everyone's going the same way. We my dad here used to own a mini GP program, and we teach little kids how to ride and how to race. And one of the most common questions we get was about crashing. It's like, oh, my kid's gonna go out there and catch on fire or something, and it's just not true. It's one of the safest environments you can be in. So yeah,
Well, that's good to hear. No major injuries. No, you said no broken bones, so that's pretty impressive. You know, I've had I had a dozen crashes in my career, and all on the racetrack. And there was only one crash that I have to write home about that ended me up in the hospital because I hit something. You know, you only really get injured badly in a motorcycle, or one of the ways I should say, is if you hit a stationary object. Um,
yeah,
I would say I would recommend to you don't hit anything that's stationary. 'Cause I ended up hitting the pit wall at one of the tracks in Michigan at about 120, 130 miles an hour. Um, so that was a nasty one. But before that, yeah, I was in the same boat as you. I've crashed all these times and I never broke a bone. I dislocated a few things here and there, but like a thumb, I dislocated my thumb was the first one. Um, and that wasn't so bad. I mean, that's a very minor thing to happen for a motorcycle.
yeah. Yeah, my dad actually had an accident back in May on my birthday. We had traded some of our mini GP bikes for a GSXR 1000 so that we could turn around and sell to go racing. And he had taken it up the road to move it to our shop, and his our dog ran out in front of him, and he just looped it out, or
Oh,
like stopped and indoed over, and he ended up with seven broken ribs, a cracked sternum, a collapsed lung, a brain bleed.
oh wow.
It was an interesting couple weeks. He's still recovering from that. Yeah, yeah. The worst crashes, man, are less than 40, and
Yeah,
they're
you
usually
know,
not.
and the scariest things for me are really not broken bones or sprains or dislocations, are the head injuries. That's the
Yeah,
most scary thing for me because everything comes from the head. And I've had a few too many concussions myself, and it can be scary. I actually went through speech therapy, not because I couldn't speak right,
wow,
because it was a precaution, because I'd had too many, and they said, hey, we want to make sure everything's okay up there. And we did like tests, we did like brain quizzes, all different sorts of things, because I was having memory issues at the time, right after it happened. Um, and I think it was beneficial to do all that. Um, I would never want anybody to have any major head injury. It drives me nuts seeing people on the street not wearing helmets.
yeah. Especially especially after seeing my dad crash like that, and he was wearing a helmet, but he was in shorts and t-shirt, full squid.
Yeah.
That that hurt him a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So go ahead.
I didn't have anything to say.
Sure. So you're 13 now, so that means you're in eighth grade or so.
Yeah, eighth grade.
Eighth grade. So tell me what that's like with Corona. Are you at school now? Are you schooling from home with Zoom like this?
Yeah, so North Carolina and Rockingham County schools went virtual from I think pretty much the beginning of the year. And we tried to go back from like an A and B system. Like we went to school for 2 days and then we came home, and then another group went to school for 2 days. But that someone got sick, so we had to come home. So yeah, we're all virtual now.
And how's that been working out? Have you been keeping up with your assignments and all that stuff?
yeah, virtual has actually helped us a lot. I could be at trackside and still be on a Zoom.
Perfect. Yeah. That way, you could be anywhere in the world. You could be on the beach of Bahamas or at the racetrack and still be going to school full time, and they have no idea where you are.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
I think it's great that everything's virtual, and it's great for me that all the people are buying stuff online. I think there was like a 44% jump in online sales from last
yeah,
year to this year, which is not for me personally, but for all sales, globally, which is great. Everybody's going online, so put everything you possibly can for sale online, right?
yeah.
That's my idea anyway. So. You've been following any of the MotoGP stuff, Moto 2 or Moto 3?
Uh, we follow it a little bit, not much. I don't exactly know what's happening right now. We've been so set on Moto America for the past 2 or 3 years now that we haven't paid much mind to MotoGP.
Yeah, and talking about Moto America, then Cam Bobier is going overseas, so he'll be vacating the series after how many championships? I think 5 championships.
Yeah, 4 or 5. Yeah,
So there'd be
should be exciting.
yeah, there's going to be an open spot. I don't think anybody else in that series has won a championship off the top of my head. So it'll be open. Well, Josh Herron's back, and the Yamaha, so he's won. Maybe he'll be, with a good bike under him. Maybe he'll be at the front again.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him back at Yamaha.
And
He should be
he was a mainstay. He's always someone you got to watch out for. Um, he always had the "Make Heron Factory Again." I like that slogan.
yeah.
Um, and so, are there any people around your age or that you have your eye on in your class that you think you got to watch out for?
Uh, I'd say Gus Rodeo and people like Jack Roach and those guys. I know for sure that I can run with them, but I know that they've had a year on me in Moto America, so they know all the tracks and they know all the kids there. So I'm a little worried about them, but at the end of the day, it's my first year in Moto America, so I'm not going to be super angry if I'm not top 5 all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things you expect to be difficult when you enter this new season for you?
I think one of the main things we're worried about is setup because um, we've never we've never really had the money to have a really great setup bike with really good suspension. In fact, this year was the first year that I've ever been on a bike with suspension that was set up nearly for me, and I went off and did really well on that bike. Yeah, I think setup and kind of talking the language, which is one of the things I want to talk to Dustin with. I need to learn you know, how to tell him what's vibrating or what's sliding and this and that, so he can make some changes. Yeah,
And some of the things I've seen is just not getting too in your head about it. I mean, you do have to talk through the setup and what you're feeling, but at the end of the day, you just gotta ride. You gotta whether the bike feels perfect or not, whether you hit your setup that day. Sometimes it's just not going to be there, or you didn't have enough seat time or enough laps, and you just got to ride around those issues. So that's a big thing, is being adaptable and being able to ride a bike that's maybe 75% of its setup, ideal. So that's a big challenge too, is just getting through those races that you're not going to podium, but you still want to finish well, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything on your mind you'd like to talk about today?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sorry, I think your sound might have gone there.
Uh,
I don't know. I don't think I can hear you there. Oh,
now,
perfect. I was just saying, is there anything on your mind you wanted to talk about today?
sorry, what'd you say?
Is there anything on your mind you wanted to talk about today?
Uh, I can't really think of anything specifically now. We're just looking forward to next year and looking for sponsors, looking to get my name out there.
And it's great you're doing stuff like this, you know, talking to podcasters and getting your name out there. I think it's great, you know, just trying to get your story and see the characters that are already out there is great. Just people getting introduced to you. That's what I'm trying to do. Just introduce you to the world. So I love it.
Yeah. So we try to get our social media as best as we can, because that's probably one of the main things in racing nowadays is social media. That 90% Facebook and 10% writing.
Yeah, right. So
That's
where
not
are
funny.
you out there on social media? You're on Facebook, any other platforms?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram. We just started a Twitter. We don't know if we're gonna keep it or not, but yeah, Facebook and Instagram are our main sources. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I've had I think the most success on Instagram myself. Facebook can be pretty good. I don't use Twitter all that much, although I have one. Um, I find Twitter to be very frustrating. I can't seem to get very much response on there. I think you got to be pretty big, but I'm not discounting it. And some people are even hyping, what's the new one? The dancing one, the TikTok. If you do TikToks, maybe that could be big. I don't know. I don't have one
Yeah,
of
we've thought a lot about that stuff. It's hard to tell what could go big and what couldn't.
Yeah. You just got to kind of try whatever platform you like and go with it.
Yeah.
Are
We
you,
we we uh we've been doing pretty well with Facebook and Instagram. Bison Leathers actually found us and reached out to us because one of our videos. So yeah, we're doing pretty well.
good. And are you on YouTube at all? You're making videos or content?
Yeah, we have a YouTube account. We haven't done much with it, but we're making some plans to do a lot more. Like we actually just did a walk around of the Ninja here to try to get a little more subscribers and views. Well, you can get views all day, but it's all about the likes and comments and stuff now.
For sure. Yeah, we love this to see that original content. I just saw, you know, Nolan Lamkin. He just posted out his data. He's a super sport rider, 600 series. He was in the Liqui Moly Junior Cup uh,
Yeah,
with the KTM Cup, I want to say. Um,
yeah,
so he was with the KTM Cup. He's racing 600s now, and he just released a snippet of his data from his data logger of one of the tracks he was at. So he's like, "Hey, um, check out my data. Tell me what you think. You can relay it against your data. You can tell me what I'm doing wrong. You can say what you're doing. You know, you can see actually the
yeah.
breaking points and the throttle application and all that. Do you run a data logger or keep that kind of information for each track?
I'm not sure if we are gonna do it next year, but this year we didn't. We've never really messed around with the data and stuff. We've always done it by feel. Yeah.
I feel, yeah. Um, it can be very helpful depending on what class you're in, what they allow. But at least for just the lap timer, because it's like a GPS lap timer. Sometimes you can hook up suspension potentiometers on it so you can measure
Yeah.
suspension travel, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Lap timers, that's like kind of the only kind of data thing we have on our or we had on our bike. Next year, I don't know. Data's kind of a new thing to Junior Cup. I don't know if BartCon will run it next year or not. I'm assuming they probably will. Um, yeah, but I don't know. We don't know much about what's going to happen next year with or schedules and writing or yeah.
For sure. And so tell me about some of the racetracks that you've ridden at so far. And I know that the Motor America series is gonna add some new tracks that you've never been to. That should be exciting.
Yeah, we want to try to get to as many Moto America tracks as we can before the season starts, because or at least before we go to that track and race, because I've only been to VIR and New Jersey. That's the only two tracks I've been to.
Yeah.
And I haven't been to VIR in a while. But yeah, we've ridden all over this year, especially. We went to Wisconsin and rode Ovalis there. We've been to VIR this year.
And what track
Uh,
were you riding at in Wisconsin?
Road America. Well, we weren't on the big track, but I think the little track is a replica. I
Okay,
think.
that's pretty cool. They got a
Yeah,
replica kart track.
yeah. We had a pretty all right weekend there. I sadly had a pretty big uh-oh. Managed to throw myself over the bars of an volley. It wasn't
Oh
fun.
man, that's got to be a interesting ride.
Yeah, I had to. We actually qualified pretty well, but I had to start from the back because we forgot to put our transponder. Oh, because we were running two different bikes, we forgot to put it on that bike, and I managed to get a pretty good start, but I got stuck behind a kid who was just fast enough to run with my pace, but also kind of just slow enough to slow me down a little bit, and I came to a turn too hot, clipped his rear wheel, and just stopped.
Oh no,
You
huh?
know, got pitched pretty hard, bumped my noggin, but I didn't hurt myself.
That's
But
good.
yeah,
Yeah, you go at a lot slower speeds um, than a 600 or a 1000. So that's where you want to have those uh-ohs rather than um,
yeah,
a couple years down the line when you're going a lot faster. Maybe add another 100 miles an hour,
yeah, yeah,
So I think, doing these minis and having this experience when you're younger will save you, not from all the crashes when you're older, but it will save you from probably a lot of the ones that were easier to get out of. You'll get that feeling under you. You'll know how to do it better than when I started to do it.
yeah. Minis have played a big part in my career and a lot of other kids' career. Like we Gus Lamondre, I think Jack Roach might have been a part, but I've known them for a long time because they raced with New Jersey Mini GP when we were little, and we all came up to that program. And I think that even adults, if you have the time and if you want to go off and race even kind of professionally, minis are going to play a big part because
Yeah,
that's where I get all of my technique from, just
for
doing
sure.
circle drills and figure eights.
So you go in some parking lots, put cones up, and just do drills like that too?
Yeah, we don't have a mini bike now, but when we had the O'Valleys, man, we'd be at a parking lot as much as we could, just doing simple stuff like circle drills. I mean, you could sit there and do a 30-minute circle drill and learn more than you could doing a whole track day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're going a lot slower on those. You're spinning the rear tire less. How often are you having to change tires to stay competitive on an O'Valley?
Um, we didn't have much problems with tire wear. I think we might, if we had like a 2-day weekend, we might go through one or two pairs. But the really like super fast kids who are a little lighter that were spinning the tires a lot more, they would go through two sets at the most, I think. And I think that's just kind of like they want a fresh tire. I think you could ride on that tire for much longer, but yeah.
They're just wanting that fresh rubber for race ready. Yeah, people don't realize, the optimal race performance of a tire is like what, 20, 30 laps maybe? It's very short.
Yeah, and with the Dunlops, you get about 10 really good laps out of them, and then they fade off a little bit.
It,
And you can run them for a long time, but they really stick for about 8 or 10 laps.
does it feel like a progressive drop off, or is it like a cliff, like you have nothing after that?
It's pretty smooth. I mean, it's you can definitely tell that you're starting to lose a little bit of grip, but I mean, it's not like, oh my God, I'm gonna die if I turn in or if I break here. It's just you might spin it a little bit more than usual. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. What I notice is when it starts to go off, you just, like you said, you spin a little bit more than usual, and you're like, oh, I got to be careful now.
Yeah, I actually I don't mind sliding a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you got to steer with the rear, they always say, and we were just talking about this, I think, with maybe Skylar Cop podcast, where the rear tire is sometimes spinning like 10, 15% faster than the front tire.
Yeah,
It's significant. People don't realize that it's normal to spin the rear and to steer with the rear. It's just sometimes if you're not used to it or if you're not used to pushing, it can be uncomfortable because it's spinning. It's less grip than if it was planted, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just a feeling you got to get used to. Are you a big bicycle rider? Are you a bicycle trainer a lot?
Uh, Not huge. We tried to get into the mountain bike scene, but Corona came along and all the trails and stuff closed down for a little bit. We haven't done much with it. I think we're gonna try to do more with the kind of bicycle, like cycling and mountain biking training next year. But we just don't know yet.
Yeah, I think it's great. You know, when I stopped racing motorcycles, I switched over to mountain bikes, and it's way cheaper, but it's great for cardio. So a lot of
Yeah,
times when I'm training now, I don't do tons of weights. I should probably do a little bit more strength training. But as far as the cardio goes, and cycling, I think it's awesome. You get your cardio, but you also get, you know, a skill-based training method that you get better at. So not only are you just moving your legs and you're going through the world and exploring new trails and things, but you're also getting better at it as you do it. And I think that's great. I just love that aspect of it.
yeah. We The biggest problem with the mountain biking and even just cycling for that matter, for all the junior cup kids is we're most of us are 14, and like we our biggest problem with cycling is we couldn't find anyone that would let us ride with them. And with mountain biking, there wasn't many places we could go with it. And then COVID came along and didn't help out with that any. But yeah, that's the biggest problem is finding where and with whom to do it with.
Yeah. See, in Michigan, we have tons of trails around here. I'm not sure what it's like where you are, but I live a mile south or just a mile north of a trail. And if I go a mile away, it's right there, which is nice. I mean, it's a paved trail. I got to go another couple miles till I get to the dirt, which is it's fine. It's not that far. Um, but yeah, it's just so nice to get that feel without having to spend the money of you know, getting on a big bike or a dirt bike or a mini. It's just like in your backyard type of training.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure how many trails we have around here. I know we have some close, but we're just waiting until it gets a little bit warmer to start legitimately training again.
Yeah, very good. And I'm just trying to get some more bullet points. I'm see if we can talk about something interesting. Um, have you been watching or following any endurance racing? Is that something you'd like to do at some point?
Uh, Other than CCS, we're like team challenge events and stuff like that. We don't keep in touch with many endurance stuff. Well, that's never been a real big thing for us. Uh, I mean, we did some stuff with minis where we do like a 24-hour race or like a 2-hour race or something like that. But yeah, I don't keep I don't keep in touch with much endurance stuff.
And at this point, you would still consider yourself privateer or factory?
Uh, Privateer, yeah, by a long shot. I'm
um,
definitely
and
not
so, what would
factory.
your? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's fine.
Yeah. So, what would your ideal racing situation be? Is there a specific bike or team, or are you on that team now?
I'd say Barcon is definitely a dream team. And I love the 400s. I wouldn't want any other bike in Junior Cup right now. Yeah, just yeah, 400s and Barcon. That's where I want to be.
And in the future, you want to move up to the 600s, I would assume.
Yeah, we're not we haven't really thought much about Twins Cup. 600's kind of always been the next step from Junior Cup, and that's where I want to go. Yeah, so 600s is where I'd say we go after Junior Cup.
And you know, the Twins Cup, it kind of seems like maybe a lesser series than the 600 Cup, than the 600 class. I think it maybe is just, I don't know what the right way to say it. Maybe it's a slower bike, right? And it's maybe less competitive.
Yeah, the Twins Cup is kind of a mixed thing for us. We like the bikes, and 650s are a great learning tool, but honestly, they're only like 12 horsepower more than the 400, and they're like, well, yeah, they're stronger than that, but they're heavy, and so if Junior Cup wasn't restricted, they'd be faster than the 650s.
Oh
And
wow.
so I don't, yeah, I don't want to have to move up to basically the same thing. Yeah, and Twins Cup is still growing, and there's not much that you can get out of it right now. I'm not saying it's a bad class, but there's definitely not as big as Junior Cup or 600s for that matter.
Yeah, the 600 class is just like such a legacy class. Everybody's always interested in that. The Twins is a new class on the scene. Not everybody knows about.
Yeah. Uh, I have some buddies that have raced in the Twins Cup, and they like it. They like the experience. I still think that Twins is kind of a class made for club guys that wanna have the professional experience, or kind of guys that are just kind of getting into the professional thing. Like if you are an adult but you wanted to come into super sport, start on Twins. Yeah,
Yeah, it's probably an easier entryway.
yeah. The 400s are really hard to ride when you're over about 5'8".
Right. Well, there's also an age cutoff, isn't there, on the 400 class?
Yeah, yeah, but I believe the age cutoff is 21. I may be mistaken, but I think that's where it is.
Yeah. So like I couldn't even race in that class if I wanted. It's not possible. I've aged out
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
And so tell me about your dad's riding and racing. Has he been racing or riding? How did you got both get into all this?
Well, I don't know much about his racing career. I know he did track days and stuff when he was a bit younger. Um,
Way up.
yeah, I know when I was about 6.5 or so, I was struggling in school. I just didn't understand it. My family is the most ADHD thing that lives. So my dad had been in the industry for years then, and his idea was that we'd get a little crappy bike, and I could go through the manual and read and do all the math and fix it up, and we can do track days for fun. Because he had buddies that still did it, and I got better in school, and I took to riding really well. So that was a PW50 that we had then, and then I think we upgraded to a CRF 50 that we had for a while. I mean, if I had a 50 now, I'd still race it. I think that is the all-time best training bike ever.
A PW50,
Yeah, or well, the CRF 50.
CRF50.
Yeah, yeah, along with the NSR 50 GP bike.
And so you just did some training, did some track days, and now you're full-fledged into it.
Yeah, we just started out doing like open supermoto track days at VIR kart track, and I think after that we didn't start racing, but we went to New Jersey and we did the camp, or not the camp, but I think we just did a class, and that helped me out a lot. I think they put me on a CRF 50, and it was raining, and I finished like ninth because I took to it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we after that we just took to it, and honestly, we really didn't think about going pro until about 3 years ago, when I started training with Josh, and he made me into a whole different rider, and I'm never gonna let him live it down. I beat his lap time by 1 second on an SR50 at his own track.
That's awesome. That's great to see that progression. Some people will get a little bit farther and then they'll stop. They'll hit some sort of plateau. So
Yeah,
you've figured out how to get over those plateaus and can continue to keep learning.
yeah. I think honestly, most of our learning, like track time and seat time, is a really big thing for us. But I think I've learned a lot just by sitting in and going through tracks in my head. Because there's been track days where one day I'd be kind of meh, doing pretty all right, and then we'd go to bed and sleep, and then I'd come back and be elbow down and destroy it. just because it's all about mental. Everything about racing is in between your heads. Yeah,
So you said you go through the track in your head, you do some sort of like visualization kind of thing.
yeah, all the time, every day.
And can you explain that process a little bit for people?
Yeah, well, for me, I just when I'm not doing anything, I just sit down and I'll run through a track like a VIR. I'll just go through it turn by turn and dissect each turn. Like I could get a good entry here. I could start braking here. Here's the apex. The best exit would be taking this line. And it's just stuff like that. And just run through the track constantly and constantly, and you'll improve a lot just by that.
I find it interesting how you can improve without actually doing anything with the motorcycle or the racetrack. Like being, it's just mental work can be very helpful because, um, you know, racing is so mental. It's not the people who are the strongest who win. It's the people who have everything all put together, the best package of every little aspect of it who usually win, and that's just one
Yeah,
other aspect of it.
yeah.
Yeah, and are there what would you say is one of your strong suits? Like when you go to a track, you're like, I can't wait to get to this part so I can do this. Is there a specific track style or a specific set of turns that you
Uh,
that's your style?
I'd say like long snoopy tracks like VIR is a really long kind of fast track. I'm really good at those. I'm really good at just pinning it. uh, Corner speed is one of my strong suits, but I think that goes for anyone that rides a 400 or that came up from the mini bikes. Says that's one of the biggest things that we're told is just corner speed, corner speed, corner speed. So yeah, definitely some of the longer, sweepier tracks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I think that's always interesting. You know, different bikes have different characteristics, and even different classes of bikes have different characteristics. Like when you ever get to the 1000s, you might be actually going slower in the corners than you did on
Yeah,
the 400 because sometimes they just, you know, they want to slow it down, turn the bike and point and shoot. Whereas the
yeah,
400 is much more of a carry all the speed possible in the corners because it doesn't have tons of horsepower to get out of there. So every bike is different.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, Moto America season is going to be great this year. There's going to be new riders, new people, um, people in the same class on different bikes. So everybody's moving around. I'm excited for it.
yeah. It should be an interesting year. There should be. I know a lot of kids are going in. I know a lot of the front guys are leaving, like Rocco and Lockoff, I believe, are leaving. Uh, so it should be an interesting year. It should be a lot more battling this time than last year.
And you're doing the full season, so a full season entry. Then you get the upgraded pit setup, I think, area, all that stuff.
Uh, yeah,
Um,
I wish if I was born like 2 days earlier, I'd be able to hit the first round, but no,
oh, I see.
we're
You
gonna
can,
we're
so
gonna.
you're so young that they won't even let you race until the second round.
Yeah, I turned 14 on the second day of the Road America round, or Road Atlanta round, sorry.
Okay.
And I think technically I have the option to start from the pits and do that race, but Colin just wants me to skip it and train for VIR.
That makes sense. I mean, you don't want to be starting your first race from the pit lane on your back foot. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, you could do it. It wouldn't be ideal though. You wouldn't have any
yeah,
practice the day before. It'd be harder. I think that might be a good plan. But that's
yeah,
wild, you know, other countries. That's why Damien went to other countries to race because you can't race here in America until you're 14 years old. So, what do you think
yeah.
should be done about that in the States? Do you think that age should be lowered or do you think it should stay the same?
Um, I don't know if age should be lowered. I think 14 is a really good age to start, especially professionally. I think track days should definitely let younger kids in. Like Evolve GT, who has helped us out tons. Let me start riding when I was 9. I think I was turning 10. Yeah, and they don't really care how old you are. And they've been a great program for me. And two, also they let me ride. But there's some track day organizations, like I think PRE won't let you ride until you're 16, and I think that's fine. Like, do what you want to do, but I think the more younger kids we can get into the sport, the better the industry would be.
Oh
The
yeah.
more, the-
And really, I feel like we just lag behind other countries. I don't know what the other countries, their actual laws are, but I'm pretty sure they're younger. So like I think Italy might be 12 if that might even be wrong. Um,
yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be a good question for my dad.
yeah, is he
Because
around? I don't know.
yeah, he's right here.
Hey Dad.
Hey, how's it going? Let me grab a stool here real quick.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of overseas thinking.
Sure. Hey,
Yeah.
no worries. Nice to meet you, Dad. Welcome
Hey,
to
good to see you.
the
Thanks for
ESR
having us on here.
podcast. I love
Yeah,
the shirt
thank
with
you.
the Moto America on there. Is your name Bill?
Yeah, that's me. I'm Bill. I'm
Sure.
the I am the up to this point I have been the mechanic, the financier, the hauler driver, but most importantly the carrier of the Visa card.
And the crew chief, right?
Well, we split the duties on that. Like he said earlier, I had an accident back in May. And so most of this summer I spent either on a cane. Actually, when I first came home, I was on a walker.
Oh yeah.
And I was on a cane. And I heard you mention speech therapy. I've been through all of that: speech therapy, physical therapy, and several different things. So he actually took over a majority of the physical roles in the pits this year. I just would say, okay, this is a torque wrench. Here's how you use a torque wrench. Make it happen. But he does a great job. And but you were talking about um, youth in sports and the age limits and that sort of thing. I think 14 is fantastic, and I think the mini cup is really addressing that gap. Because those kids are starting. I believe I think Nathan was 6 when he ran his first race in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, and so they're using that mini cup program, and it's only going to grow to span the difference. And there's always rumors, but there may be some sort of intermittent group between those Avali 160s and 190s and Junior Cup in the future too.
Okay.
So if that all happens, I think that from a standpoint of Moto America and the FIM, I think they've got the ages covered. The problem is, Keagan said earlier that we had, NC Mini GP. We ran a program here in North Carolina for kids. And one of the things we ran into was insurance. And
Oh yeah.
the United States is by far the most litigious country that, we have friends from all over the world, and they're just appalled at everything from our politics sometimes to just, frivolous lawsuits, suing McDonald's because your salad wasn't crispy enough or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But the big issue there is that when you're trying to find a venue for minis and you only have, for an organization that's starting, maybe you got 10 or 15 kids that come out, you are not going to even come close to breaking even because your insurance is going to knock you over the head. So the big problem with the youth movement and for some of these motorcycle or track day organizations, I should say, is definitely the insurance piece of it. So like he said, Evolve GT, I'll just say it. Keagan would not be able to do what he does now if it were not for Evolve GT. Mark Leinhardt, Billy, Brett, and God, there's a whole fleet of people that have stepped up. The Moores, Matt Lamb, Gabe, and all those guys with Evolve GT. If it weren't for that community helping Keagan, we wouldn't be where he is today. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and those bikes are really brand new. I've only just heard of them the last year or two. They just came on the scene.
What's that, the Avali?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Avalis were great. I mean, honestly, for us, it was a financial decision to not run them. We went to Wisconsin, and Keagan did the 160 and the 190 race in the first round of the Mini Cup this year. And like he said, he had some mixed results. I made a bonehead error and left the blooming transponder off the bike during one of the qualifying rounds, and it just kind of took some of the wind out of his sails. But what happened for him at Wisconsin that was really made the trip worthwhile was that Robert Lackey and his wife Tasha, they took Keagan around and just introduced him to race teams. And Bartcom was one of them. And we had an opportunity to speak with Colin at that event. And Colin, if you've ever met him, he is hilarious. He is an Irishman. He is grumpy, and he is just hilarious. And he was telling us, focus on that 400. And from a financial standpoint, what I was finding was we could afford to go and ride the Ovalis a little bit, and we could afford to go ride the 400 a little bit, but we weren't giving either of them their due. And so for us, we took the money that we made off of selling the Ovalis, which was a really difficult decision. Well, we spoke about that for 2 or 3 weeks about, should we? Because it was a heck of an investment. I mean, we had more money in Ovalis than we did our 400 at one point.
Yeah.
And we sold off the Ovalis and took that money and put it into track days and put it into CCS and ASRA. And like he said, COVID smushed everything into like a 3-month period. So we were going just about every single weekend, Summit Point, New Jersey, NC Bike, Roebling Road. Seems like we went somewhere else too. We went to a bunch, but we were up and down the East Coast like all summer long.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it takes. And so the Ovalis are fantastic motorcycles. I wouldn't take anything in the world away from them. They got that new 190 that's pretty awesome. It's a little roomier. And they got the new GP2, which is a 12-inch wheel bike. And there's a lot of great stuff happening for the youth.
Yeah.
And that is gonna be the key.
I would love to see the manufacturers like Kawasaki, Honda, MV, Suzuki, Triumph get into the mini bike market. How awesome would that be if we start seeing a fight in the manufacturers and the minis?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're probably younger than me, but I can remember YSR 50s and the first time the NSR 50 Honda came around, and even Suzuki had a little 50 like that as well. And they were all air-cooled two-strokers, and the NSR was liquid-cooled, but the YSR and those guys were all air-cooled two-strokers and weren't especially fast, but they did offer an opportunity for smaller stature folks and less well-funded people to get out and ride motorcycles. The bottom line is with minis, whether it be little dirt bikes or little GP type bikes, there's no money in it. I mean, and that's the bottom line, and that's frustrating, and I'm sure you've heard this phrase: to make $1 million in the motorcycle business, you must start with $2 million, right? At the end of the day, when you go into a power sports dealership like we're in right now, it is difficult. It takes just as much effort to sell a $2,900 CRF 50 as it does a ZX10. And the profit margins are very thin on those machines. And the little bikes, they just don't break like the big bikes do. They don't get the same kind of use like the big bikes do. So you don't get the service. You don't get the parts and accessories end of it like you do on the big bikes. So they got to go where the money is. So I get that. But you are seeing a readjustment of sorts with things like the R3, the Ninja 400. Who else? I mean, there's several companies making those lightweight sport bikes now, and then with manufacturers like Honda and Yamaha doing away with their 600 programs, and the R6 went away. Who'd have thunk that? If you told me 10 years ago that the R6 was something that Yamaha was thinking about ever cutting, I'd have told you were absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But from their standpoint, it costs so much to engineer and build and tool up and build those motorcycles. And then you got the Euro 5 standard. You have the EPA here in the United States. I mean, they're building different bikes for just about every continent that rides motorcycles, and that's expensive. So there's this readjustment happening where the twins class that Keagan was talking about earlier, I think that's going to become your kind of new middleweight. That's going to be your eventually, when there's not enough 600s around, or they're so old that they're not homologated that they're not using them anymore in the sport. That's where it's going to head. So I think Twins Cup, and I think you're going to see, calling it now, my prediction in my obviously very professional opinion, you're going to see, I think, Junior Cup something, that Twins kind of middleweight class, and then Stock 1000 and Superbike will be your future, track.
Do you think there's ever room for a class above the 1000 class?
I mean, well, they did the baggers this year, right?
Right. Those are above for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so growing up as a kid, one of my heroes, was, Wayne Rainey and those guys. But even before that, you get back into the late 70s and the early 80s with Freddie Spencer, and Suzuki made this bike called the GS 1000S Suzuki, right? They built it for 2 years. And I was fortunate enough to own one of these as a young man. And I loved that motorcycle. I have the 1979 July issue of Cycle Guide, which was a magazine.
Yeah.
And on the cover of that magazine, it said 147 miles per hour, 79 horsepower. It will never be any faster than this.
Yeah, right.
Right. And those were the super bikes of the day at 79, 80 horsepower. And the bikes weighed a ton. They flexed, and they were nowhere near the electronic marvels that they are today. So that being said, the 1000s, there's no point in it. There's no point in being any bigger than that, because they're having to dumb them down now with electronics so that you can even get through the corner. And you even said earlier, point and shoot, right? I am not in any way, shape, or form taking anything away. I had a 1000 absolutely destroy me this year. So the guys riding those things, my hats are off to you. They're phenomenal motorcycles. But there's no point. If you can make 400 horsepower, put 4 wheels on it. There's no need. Yeah, you're going to have to electronically control that so much that there is a limit, I think. So maybe in the future with flight, maybe, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I think we're going to need to redesign new racetracks if we up the CCs anymore.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because there is.
Yeah, we hear all the time. I mean, when they interview guys who race in Europe versus folks who come here to the States and ride. I was listening to a different podcast with Jake Zemke the other day, and he was talking about his time over in Europe and how swoopy the tracks were versus, 20-mile-an-hour turns in first gear and second gear here in the States. We're already kind of sort of seeing that sort of thing with regards to international racing, like MotoGP, for example. They're able to go so fast because they are able to carry corner speed because the corners are designed differently. So
yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it'll be a new generation of everything to get much above where we are right now, I believe.
Yeah, they just start putting chicanes in all the fast parts. Like there's one on any place that they think is dangerous. Oh, just put a chicane in; it'll be fine.
Yeah, bus stop, and you're good. Yeah,
yeah.
Like that chicane, or that on the front stretch at the Ridge that claimed so many people last year. I know there's some changes coming for 2021 at that track, some more paving and some more upgrades and that sort of thing. I'm positive that they learned a ton from that Moto America round out there last year. Some people, the clubs that race out there, they skip that chicane, and they shoot straight through, and then they come around on the second lap, they take that chicane. So I don't know if there's changes like that coming, or if they've just tweaked it or what. I don't know, but I know there's some changes coming out there for 2021.
Yeah. I even saw, I think somebody hit their engine casing on a curb and lost it. It's like, that's pretty rare. I've never heard that before.
Well, my understanding is that it was the initial paving, and so there was another layer to go yet, and so the curbing is poured separately from the track surface itself, and so that was at the correct height, but the track was not. Is my understanding of it, but we weren't there, so I would be, you know, talking out of school on that deal there. But it's come a long ways, and I think that the technology is there to do phenomenal things, but I think there's kind of a gentleman's agreement between some of these manufacturers. I mean, you don't hear anymore about the Hayabusa, the ZX14, and Honda used to make the Blackbird Double X, the CBR Double X 1100, which had the land speed record for production motorcycle for years and years and years. And that's kind of not been the goal anymore, so I think point A to point B as quick as you can get there, and turning and twisty and those types of things, I think are the measure of talent these days. And I believe that's probably for the foreseeable future how it's going to continue to be.
Yeah, I think we've kind of reached our horsepower limit. We're now on the making the rider feel smooth and getting him through the corner as fast as possible now, maybe.
Right. I mean, the whole suspension thing is a real dark art that I don't pretend to understand. Compression this, rebound that, blah blah blah. That's one of the reasons why I was so excited that Keagan got invited to be a part of BartCon, because if we had to go it alone, 100% would have been back. We wouldn't have had a shot at. He wouldn't have had a shot at the front, because I don't know my butt from a hole in the ground when it comes to some of that stuff. We ran 520 chains, for example, through CCS, because what we were looking for was longevity and dependability. But I think the order of the day in the Moto America pit is probably 415. And so, the math is different for those gear ratios and things. And I don't know that stuff. And I'm really looking forward to, it's like, here's my child. Groom him.
Yeah.
I'll be over here if you need me.
And when you're with a team like that, you might not be technically factory, but you're on your way, because if you're with a real team, like I always raced on my own, just like you guys are doing, and I don't know how to turn the right clicks to make it's all black magic. It's like, it seems like it's just random sometimes, but it's not. And those guys know, they've done it for 20 years, at the same track or at similar tracks. And they know this feeling or this movement or this, chatter in this corner has a fix. You do this, and it has an effect. And to be with somebody, it's a full-time job. To do it right, and to be with a team who knows how to do it is so valuable. It'll make you go from, there's been times I'm at a track, I don't know what to do, the suspension's not right. You make a couple clicks, it's a second and a half just from a couple clicks. It changes your whole weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Keagan mentioned it earlier. This year, I have bought him some absolutely terrible equipment over the years, because my thought process on it was, A, we can afford this, and B, was, hey, if he can learn to go fast on this, then when we get some decent stuff under him, he's going to go.
Yeah.
And we decided, we bought this 400 this year, and we really spent some time. We hooked up with David and Birch and Teague over at Fast Bike Industries out there in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And they put a set of Nitron suspension that Dallas Daniels had been riding, or a similar setup to what Dallas Daniels had ridden the previous year in Junior Cup under his bike. Now, they weighed him, they set sag, they did these different things, and they're like, this should be good. We literally did not touch that motorcycle for the rest of the season, and he did really well on it.
Yeah.
So we show up at not Indianapolis. We showed up at New Jersey, and this was the weekend. It was CCS ASRA weekend before Moto America weekend at New Jersey this year. So several of the Junior Cup teams were there, including Rocco Landers, who pitted about 4 stalls down from us. BartCon was there. They pitted across from us. I think Liam Grant was there. Lamondre, poor Gus had just broken his leg at Gus Rodeo. He wasn't able to ride, but he was there to see everybody. And we sat there and we had our bike on tire warmers. We would check the tire pressures. Meanwhile, down the road here, the Rocco's team is going through their bike like every time it came in. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, should we be doing more? I don't know what to do, you know. And it's always amazing to me the amount of work that goes in, and it's just tiny little minuscule changes that they make, and bada bing, 2/10. You know, it's just phenomenal. So,
Yeah.
so to me, the benefit of him being with that BarkCon program is, first of all, you know, Dom is still going to be a part of BarkCon, and I believe they've said it already that he's going to be racing a 600 next year.
Okay.
Cooper is still going to be a part of BarkCon, still in Twins Cup. Kayla Yakov is coming to race when she turns 14. We have to wait. I think she has to wait till June before she comes and rides.
Mid-season.
Yeah, and then Keagan. So there's this built-in network of people who speak the same language, because some of the crap they say I don't understand. So they got their own peers there to help lean on one another and learn from. But then you got Dustin Apgar. It's Triple Strong, I believe, is a guy by the name of Mike, and I apologize, Mike, I don't know your last name. I've not met him yet, but he's actually building the bikes.
Okay.
Of course, Colin has been a coach and a racer himself, and any other number of people that are kind of in these little satellite connectivity type deals, like Ryan Snooks and some other guys that run Twins Cup and things, that all kind of have these conversations and this network to work with him. So there's all of those things going on that's just going to make it huge. The other thing is they've been doing it for several years. So they got notes, you know, there's a bump in turn 4 at Brainerd, you know, or there's that ruddy little area over in turn 6 at Indy or whatever, or wherever we end up, you know. So that's invaluable. I mean, it's hard to put a number on that.
Oh,
They
yeah.
did put a number on it. There is a price to be paid, but it's hard to put a number on that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so valuable. Just you can never have that information if you've never been there before, and just going after a team who's already done it for so many years will accelerate your career immensely.
That's right.
And so we're over our actual an hour already. We're actually at about 72 minutes. Is there any parting words that either of you would like to say to the world?
Reach us. We're on Facebook, Keagan Brown Racing, and on Instagram at Keagan Brown Racing.
YouTube at Keagan Brown Racing.
We have a GoFundMe page where any donation helps. You can email us about that, or just message us on Facebook or Instagram for that. Yeah,
reach out to us if you or someone you know wants a really unique opportunity to advertise. I mean, there is no better value than motorsports advertising through Moto America. Those guys, they just signed a huge re-up with Fox Sports and FS1, FS2, MAV TV, and of course the
NBC
Moto
Sports,
America.
I think.
Yeah, NBC Sports. Moto America Live Plus is blowing up. I mean, that's all over the globe. And you couldn't put a tiny little sticker on the side of a NASCAR vehicle for what you could spend. And I mean, you could fund an entire race team for what it costs you to put a sticker this big on a NASCAR vehicle. So the viewership is up. And if you have anyone out there who is looking for a unique opportunity to help support a young rider, but also we take it very, very seriously to support those who support Keagan. And I work really hard to make sure that the social media, everyone's tagged, product reviews, and different things like that. That is a huge part of what we do. And the racing that you see on TV is this much of everything that goes into doing what we do, and what he does especially. So there's hours and hours and hours of the week of us just reaching out to people, and people reaching out to us asking about that Nitron suspension, for example, or the Race Tech brake rotor that was on the 400 last year, or the Two Brothers exhaust system that was on our 400. And we've sold a lot of product for a lot of companies. And so definitely reach out to us. Happy to help.
Very good. Well, I hope this will help elevate you and get you more eyeballs on both of us. And I'll get this edited and posted in the next week or two. I still have a few of them working on in the meantime. Make sure that you tag and share this to as many people as you can. And I appreciate you guys coming on here, and have a great day.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks so much for the opportunity. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too, bud. See you.
Hey, just a quick message. Please head over to my YouTube channel and follow on YouTube under ericswanracing.com podcast. And it's also under youtube.com/emusic2010. It was an old username I haven't been able to change on there yet. So you can always search for Eric Swahn Racing on YouTube and go ahead and subscribe and follow and click that bell icon so you're notified when we post new videos. Thank you.